Okay, does anybody else's husband just them the wrong way sometimes? I mean, last night he wants to work on our children's playhouse. I tell him, I'm sorry, when you get home at 6 o'clock and our children need to go to bed by 7:30, 8, like there's just not enough time in the day. If you would come home during the day and not rest and like work on the playhouse then while our kids are busy, that's another story. But when I have to do dinner, clean up dinner, do bath time, get everybody ready for bed, and you're outside hammering, like that's not gonna work for me.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
For those of you men out there who still don't understand why modern marriages are a terrible idea, I present to you exhibit number 4862. Your wife may needlessly talk smack about you on TikTok. Outside of the fact of what she's doing is blatantly disrespectful to her husband, it's also nobody's business. You're standing there in a feeble attempt to try to play the victim, saying that you're doing all of this stuff on your own, and you're practically disregarding everything your husband does for you in the process. And why are you doing this? For the same reason why they post any form of cringe on TikTok, for validation and clout, which is the only currency a modern woman needs until she bilks her ex-husband for as much child support as humanly possible.
So that's very annoying. And then yesterday he was like, why don't you take the kids outside, I'll clean up dinner, and like I'll do the laundry. And I was like, that's fabulous, like sure. I start to unload the dishwasher this morning. On the top rack there are 4 cups, and on the bottom rack there is our giant crock pot and 2 pans. I'm like, you don't know how to, like, you just don't know how, so I have to do it myself. Don't get me started on the giant laundry pile that was sitting on our bed last night, so I'm basically having to sleep underneath it. And I was like, I thought you were gonna do laundry. He's like, yeah, I started a load. And then I came outside and I come back from the park, and where is he? He's in the backyard working on the kids' playhouse. And I'm just like, what? I thought you were doing laundry. Like, he's like, I thought I did.
And
Alright, you're just looking for excuses to be mad at your husband at this point. How do I know this? Because you created something I like to call the spousal Kobayashi Maru. You set the poor guy up for failure no matter what he does. If he doesn't do the dishes, you rip into him for being lazy. If he does do the dishes, you rip into him for not doing them your way, which apparently is the only right way. You see the problem here? Regardless of what your husband does, you still reserve the right to get mad at him and demean him online for virtually no reason. Yes, it can be inconvenient and a little bit annoying that he's forgetful sometimes, but that doesn't give you the right to unleash the hounds of the internet on him for just being a little bit forgetful. But I get it. That minuscule amount of attention you get from random strangers online is worth significantly more to your ego than the respect you have for your own husband.
Also, if I don't like pack a lunch for him, he eats out. If we forgot my kid's diaper bag at home, he would just buy new. Like, he's the type of person where if I don't do it, then he doesn't care. He's just gonna like spend money willy-nilly. Well, here's the thing. If there's 2 people in a relationship that are like that don't take charge, if I didn't pack my bag, my daughter's bag, my son's bag, literally put every single thing in there that they need, my husband would not know what to do. Like, if we got a divorce, he'd be like, mommy. He'd like have to call his mom. Don't get me wrong, obviously love the guy, but God. And this video is not for the girlies who are like, oh my God, they're gonna comment on my video, oh my God, you really should see therapy, or you really should tell him all the stuff that you don't like instead of us. You know what? This is called girl talk. And this video is for the girlies that are gonna comment being like, oh my God, are we all married to the same man? My husband's the same way, blah, blah, blah. And if you're not the same way, then keep scrolling.
You must seek therapy. That's where I would go with that, but that's my own.
Wow, I take that back. You clearly have zero respect for the father of your children. It seems no matter what he does, he is always in the wrong. If you know he forgets to pack a lunch, then what is the big deal about packing him a lunch to save money? You're already doing it for your kids. And if he goes out and buys a box of diapers because he forgot the diaper bag, who cares? Are you not gonna need those diapers later? If anything, this guy saved you a trip to the store. But instead of recognizing that your husband isn't perfect and working with the man you swore to honor and obey, you're just just gonna pretend that you're a victim while at the same time possessing a superiority complex because you can't imagine living in a world where you actually have to respect the name, the privacy, and the dignity of your own husband. Because believe it or not, you have no business airing out your petty marital issues for the entire world stage to witness and comment.
Let me tell you a story about how I married a man that will never buy anything because he will attempt to fix everything, and usually that's a good thing, except when I came home from work today and nearly was taken out by the smell in the house. It smells like a car shop in here, and it's not cute. So I said to my husband, I said, why does it stink in here? What is that? And he said, well, the fan quit working. So I took it apart, I lubed it up, and I put it back together again, and yay, now it's working. And I said, first of all, what business do you have lubing anything when I'm not home?
Whoa.
Uh-oh, looks like somebody's hubby ran afoul of the lubrication cops. Wait, what? Your husband has no business using any form of lubricant when you're not home? What makes you the expert on all things lubrication? You don't strike me as the kind of woman who can lubricate anything. And if that guy didn't lube that thing up himself, he'd probably feel an insane amount of chafing in all of the wrong places, if you know what I mean. So, he did what men do. He found the problem and fixed the problem efficiently, and saved the household some money in the process. Yeah, the house may smell for a few hours, but it won't be any worse than the rotten stench of entitlement you bring into the house on a nightly basis, so that's no reason to make yourself look like an entitled idiot for the entire internet to mock while trying to embarrass your husband. He's already embarrassed himself enough for deciding to marry you, so cut the guy some slack, will ya?
Second, how about we just buy a new fan? Because look at this frickin' thing. This fan has seen 6 presidents, 2 recessions, all of Kim Kardashian's husbands, and the invention of the World Wide Web. Let her rest in peace already and buy a new fan.
No.
Well, considering your average box fan has an average lifespan of less than a quarter of a single presidential term, I actually got to give kudos to the husband for keeping that thing alive for as long as he has. He really does deserve a pat on the back for his mechanical prowess. That fan is clearly not broken anymore and seems to be working like a champ. There is a veritable army of women out there who would appreciate a man who can do something like that. It saves money and shows how handy he can be. All you had to do was walk up to him, say thank you, and open up a few windows to air out the smell. Or if it really bothered you that much, you go to the store and buy your own damn fan with your own damn money. And contrary to popular belief, your heart won't stop beating if you thank your husband for doing things every once in a while. You actually have to have a heart in order for that to happen.
That's funny because it's so true.
If a man stays home with his kids, he's a lazy POS. But if a woman does it, it's the hardest job in the world. Make it make sense. Help you make some sense of it.
In this guy's video, he explained that at some point in his life, he was laid off for 4 months and he became a stay-at-home dad. I don't know how old his kids are, but I'm gonna assume that they're probably gonna be a little bit older. And he said it was the easiest job in the world. It got to the point where he got bored. And then in the rest of the video, he starts talking about how women who stay home are privileged because they have a man to provide a life for them. And that we should be grateful.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
Oh no, don't give me that look, woman. You should be grateful. If you got a husband who's pulling in an income that allows for you to stay at home and be with your kids, that means you don't have to put them in a shady daycare center or rely on the public education system. That you can actually send them to private school so they can get a real education. And most importantly, you don't have to go get a job that you can't stand and earn an income that's not enough to support a household on its own. And yet, it sounds to me like you feel like you have every reason in the world to be ungrateful to be given this kind of a life. Nobody's saying that what you do is easy. What we're saying is that it's kind of hypocritical for you to say that stay-at-home dads are lazy bums while you're somehow the titan of humanity because you've been doing something that mothers have been doing without complaint for centuries.
Let's spin this around a little bit. I am a stay-at-home mom. My husband works and I pretty much do everything else.
It's not so much that we're traditional, it just kind of made sense for us. He works way too much to really be too much involved with taking care of the kids, which I get, or doing laundry or cleaning or cooking or anything like that, and I totally get it. So in return, I do everything else. For
For us, it's not so much as a traditional marriage as it is equitable.
What does that even mean?
Is it just me, or does it sound like she's secretly ashamed to admit that she's privileged enough to live in a classically traditional household with one primary source of income in an economy that's raining hellfire and brimstone? It would make sense. After all, if she's lucky enough to not have to work and is able to devote all of her time to her kids, that would imply that she's not a victim, thus proving her argument is completely pointless, because this isn't equity. Equity would be you forcing your husband to do 90% of the household chores, be the primary source of income, buy you all of the shiny things, and put up with you constantly complaining about him doing the bare minimum on TikTok. It almost sounds to me like you're resentful of the fact that you get to stay at home, because deep down, you know you're privileged, you know you live a great life, and you know you're not oppressed. You have it pretty good, and you can't stand it.
There have been a few times that I've had to go back to work, and he stepped up in other areas. But the only reason that he was able to excel in his career, to get to the position that he's at now, where he's a manager in a multi-million-dollar company, is because he was married to me. I was a private nanny, a private chef, and a private educator for our kids. I'm a personal assistant, a laundress. I am a landscaper. I do everything that needs to be done to take care of our kids in the house. I did all of this on top of being a stay-at-home mom with 2 little girls.
It never gets old how stay-at-home moms feign oppression by listing off their daily tasks as if they're careers in their own right. You don't take care of the kids, you're a private nanny. You don't cook for a family, you're a private chef. You don't do laundry, you're a laundress. Well, if we're playing that game, then your man isn't a provider, he's a banker. Your husband doesn't protect you, he's a bodyguard. He doesn't fix the house, he's a plumber, an electrician, and a carpenter. And he doesn't drive the kids around, he's a chauffeur. And he isn't stomaching the idea of being naked in a bed with you, he's a gigolo. But only on the 3 nights a month that you want him to be. But it's not enough to diminish everything your husband does for you and your kids. You also have the gall to take credit for his success at his job because you did his laundry and cooked him pork chops. So apparently the world is going to consume itself in a tidal wave of pure acid if you take a second to humble yourself and thank your husband for what he actually does for the family, because you truly are that ungrateful.
But when moms say that being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job in the world, what we're really talking about is the newborn stage, the young toddler stage. We're talking about the multiple ages, the multiple sleep schedules, and the multiple dietary needs stage. We're talking about the time in our lives when we have a newborn on us and our toddler's still getting up in the middle of the night. We're talking about when their sleep regressions sync up. Oh my God. We're talking about being home alone, pregnant with a baby and a toddler or an older kid to take care of. We're talking about the time in our lives when there is always a little person hanging on us. On top of having to do your laundry and cook you meals and remind you to take out the trash. That is what we were talking about when we say this is the hardest job in the world. But just like a lot of men, you stay home with your older kids for a few weeks or months. You probably ignore half of their laundry and you think, this is easy. What is my wife complaining about? You couldn't possibly fathom how hard it is to be a stay-at-home mom because you've never actually done it. Your wife probably secretly hates you. And I don't blame her.
Man, that's just mean. That's mean, man.
Oh, for the love of the effervescent embrace of the intergalactic space god Roblachard, all hail. Women have been doing literally what you have been doing for thousands of years, and they had it significantly worse than you. They didn't have hospitals to give birth to kids. They didn't have running water. They didn't have supermarkets, refrigerators, or even cars. They had to work twice as hard as you to try and keep the household stable and hope to God that they could survive out a winter with what food stores they had in the larder and whatever firewood they had chopped out back. Being sick in those times was quite possibly a death sentence. You have absolutely no idea how good you have it in this era, and yet you still find reasons to complain and make pathetic attempts to try and embarrass people for asking legitimate questions and shining a light on your abundant hypocrisy. And then you end it all by accusing this man's wife of hating him? That's just low, even for someone as hideously ugly as you. And if your husband ever saw that video, I don't think he'd hate you for it, but he'd probably be secretly embarrassed and ashamed of you. I know I am. Gentlemen and gents, another milestone has been hit. This channel has hit over 10,000 subscribers, and I wanted to take a second to thank each and every single one of you. Thank you to all of the guys out there who are clicking that subscribe button, ringing the notification bell, leaving the comments. You guys are freaking-tastic, and I know that each and every one of you is being smiled upon by the shimmering pearly white smile of the intergalactic space god Glabachort, all hail. And if you're new here and you're finding that this particular brand of humor is bringing you to the brink of laughter, scroll on down and join on up. Let's go ahead and keep this train a-running, gentlemen and gents. Thank you so much for checking out the new video. Thank you for joining me on this crazy ride, and until next time, peace out, homies.